The most important thing you'll need to paint a face is stability, starting with a good grip on the model. In this case, I have a cork as a handle. Next, wrist comfortably laying on the table. The ring and pinky finger of my brush hand will also lay against the other hand's index finger. All of this makes it so that my hands are as still as a rock. Now I'll move on to the actual painting. I've got beige red, sunny skin tone and light flesh in my palette. With them I'll make a color progression. Not too many steps, but always incorporating the colors into the previous mix. The face was primed with a medium grey, and with 2 thin coats of pure beige red I'll establish my base tone from where I'll start highlighting. With the first color from the progression I previously mixed, I'll pick out all of the raised details. Most of the times this will be the nose, cheekbones and forehead, as well as, though not present in this model, upper lip, chin and jawline. There is however some very nicely defined shapes over on the eye bags, which I'll make sure to pay attention to. Having the color progression already mixed in my palette makes it easy to move on to the next color. We want to reduce the highlight area, and since it already is quite small and placing highlights within highlights seems impossible, we can instead do something like I'm doing on the nose, where I instead remark the nasal bone, the tip of the nose and the sides, while in other parts, such as the cheekbones, I'll simply make the highlight shorter yet not smaller. As I move on to brighter tones, these highlights will start to become just dots and dashes, but always working within the same areas. The more steps you add to your color progression, the better the blend will end up. Still, I always like to finish off my highlights with a quick overall glaze, which will filter all the colors towards the same spectrum. Since the model has facial hair, I also took the opportunity to sort of wet blend the area where the skin and hair meets. This was done using the same brown mixed with the base skin tone and the hair color, diluted to a wash consistency. I then applied both glazes over the corresponding areas, with the aim of getting little to no pulling on the recesses. Where both meet, I'll just end up with a subtle, darker tone in the union of the skin and hair. You'll see how this turned out as I go around the model highlighting the hair, for which I place my brush sideways to let it do the work for me, catching the raised details and avoiding the recesses. Over on the beard, due to lack of details, I opted to draw some lines. I repeated this with a couple of lighter yellows, making the lines smaller, shorter and working more on the top of the head than the sides. All in all, trying to let all of the colors be visible. For the eyebrows, tiny dots works as both texture and highlights. Time to finish off with the eyes. In my previous videos, I've shown you to first start by filling in the socket with a dark tone, which will both frame the eye as well as work as eyelashes. Following this concept, I added some very dark brown to the hair color and used it to first fill out the eyes. I am always pointing my brush towards the nose, which is the direction which gives me better access to the eye without having anything I could stain in the way. With white, I'm looking to paint the slightly raised sphere that the eye is just by tapping the side of my brush, leaving the previous tone around it. Pupils are just a matter of practice. I tend to go for a line from top to bottom rather than trying to get a dot. I will, however, show you an alternative for Stormcast Eternals. That is to fill out the eye with the turquoise color and just paint the white for a magical style of eye. So that you can see how to paint the details that were covered by hair on the first example, I'll quickly go over the second one. I mixed my own skin tone using 3 basic colors in purple, orange and white. This is a great option if you're just getting into miniature painting and don't know what colors to start with. Adding black to the equation can help you get darker skin tones. The paint job itself was quite similar to the one before. After mixing a base tone and applying 2 thin coats of it, I added small amounts of white to create my color progression. What I really want to showcase from this second example is how I'm working the jawline, by pulling the paint towards the bottom so as to have more paint deposit there, while I leave a shadow area below the cheekbones. You will also see the extra highlights on the upper lip and chin. Using pure white will result in a chalky highlight, but just as before, a simple glaze can be used to blend everything together. This time I used the intermediate tone for my color progression. Like I said before, making sure no paint pools on the recesses. If one coat isn't enough, another one can be applied, until we reach our desired level of blending. This will most likely tune down the highlights, but since the color progression is at hand on the palette, we can always go back and re-enhance them. I hope you found the video helpful. Special thanks to my patrons old and new who made this series possible. As always, feel free to leave your questions or suggestions in the comments. For now, thank you for watching.